Hi, welcome to the opening episode, episode 1 of Real Cryme with Cletus. We're going to be covering October 7th to October 14th in today's episode of the year 2023. And it's a jam-packed opening episode. We've got bad parents of multiple description coming out of Florida all the way up to Michigan. We got rural American cultists. We got everyone's favorite type of burger. We got new news in the YNW Melly case. We've got a philosophical discussion about what makes a blogger, what makes a journalist. You decide at home, and we've got much more. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to take you down to Florida to start this out in the case with YNW Melly, real name Jamel Demons. He's charged with the slaying of his two friends, Christopher Thomas and Anthony Williams, 19 and 20 years old, respectively. These guys were childhood friends. They were coming up in the rap game, and according to defense, they left the studio one night, and on the way home, YNW Melly, Jamel Demons, had shot both of them, got out of the car, and then his co-defendant, Cortland Henry, took the car to the hospital, and from there, antics ensued. These new charges are of witness tampering, and they're for both Melly and Bortland. And according to prosecution, Jamel Demons, it's spelled like demons, so that means he's got it rough. He developed, meaning he invented it himself, which, let's not get crazy, a sophisticated system to communicate with individuals outside of the Broward County Jail. And what this stems from is Melly was telling one of his buddies, who was then relaying the message to Bortland to go see Rihanna Hamilton, who was Melly's girlfriend at the time of the incident, and tell her to stay away from court. And she never showed up for her May 5th deposition, which adds credence to this whole argument they're making. And then on top of it, they're going through Bortland's house, and they find a fucking drawing of the jury box, ladies and gentlemen, with little names, small white guy, black hair, glasses, shit like that. Where they sit, not a good look. You don't want to do things like that. So they are now have them charges piled on top of everything else they have. And from there, we got more news in the Bortland Melly case. The lead prosecutor, because the last time this was tried, it went to a hung jury. So now they're getting a retrial. And lead state attorney, she's the assistant state attorney, Christine Bradley, has been removed from the case by the judge. And this is people are saying it's a big deal. It's like it's a win for defense. Let's not get crazy, because you see here, she wasn't any good. I would rather have just about anybody prosecuting the case than her. In her closing arguments, she used actual puzzle pieces as if she were talking to a jury of children. And it was just, she could have done much better. And the reason she's been removed from the case is she may be called as a witness, because there's a lot of tomfoolery going around with this lead detective Moretti. And he took Melly's mother's phone during a deposition and seized it from her. He didn't have the authority to do that. So allegedly, he told another gentleman, the sheriff's department, just tell everybody you were in the room with me the whole time, which is not a good look, not the kind of thing you want to be doing. And all this came to light because there's a podcast called 21 Jumper, and Melly's mother and Melly's little brother were on it. And while they're in it, they're going through the whole thing, and Melly's mom's got like this incredibly obvious wrist brace on that she didn't wear all the time. She didn't wear it. She just wears it when it's needed for the camera. You know what I mean? And while she's on the podcast, she's holding her arm like this and making a show of it. So the guy, naturally, is like, what's wrong with your arm? And so she goes into the story about how Detective Moretti twisted the phone out of her hand and it hurt her wrist, etc., etc. So that's going to be one worth keeping your eye on, ladies and gentlemen. And next, we're going to take a small little break for our sponsored segment. Okay, we're back at it. And we're going to go to some bad parents of multiple descriptions. We got two stories here back to back about bad parents. One of them didn't do anything. One of them did too much. We're going to start with the parents that did nothing. And for this, we're going to go to Michigan. And this is the parents of Ethan Crumbley. You'll probably remember him from the November 21st school shooting in Oxford High School. It's about 40 miles north of Detroit. It left 4 dead. And what's going on now is his parents are being charged with involuntary manslaughter because they left the gun out where the kid could get it, and they ignored his mental health struggles. The kid had issues. The parents did nothing. They left the gun around. They even took him out shooting, and it's not a good look. And it's one of those cases where every time something like this happens, people say, well, what the hell were the parents doing? Where were the parents in all this? They didn't notice that their kid was clearly having problems. And so now they're getting charged for it. And that's going to change a lot of these things going forward in the future. That one didn't go very far. That one did. Next, we're going down to Florida. This parent did too much. This is the case of Timothy Ferreter. He was found guilty on all 4 counts of child abuse and neglect. And this comes from him locking his son inside of a 64-square-foot room that he had built for him special in the garage. And this kid was a bad apple. He made Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son look like a saint. All right, this is... He should have done something different. He could have done something different. He didn't. These are the choices he made, and so now he's got to deal with them. He had a 2-year plea deal. They offered him a 2-year plea deal, and he was so confident and full of hubris in his decision-making that he turned it down, and now he's facing up to 30 years in prison. And his wife, Tracy, is up next. You heard that right. Timothy and Tracy. And they kind of look like brother and sister. It's a little weird what's going on there. And with the alliteration... Same with the parents up north. That was James and Jennifer. They both had alliteration in their names. James and Jennifer Crumbly. Timothy and Tracy Ferreter. And so that's going to be quite the deal. And keep that kid from this Timothy Ferreter case, keep him in mind because I have a feeling you'll be hearing more about him in the news in a couple of years. Next, we're shooting up to Boston, Massachusetts. For everybody's favorite independent journalist, according to him, Aidan Kearney. He's a blogger, better known as his online presence, Turtle Boy. He's got himself balls deep in this Karen Reed case. He's basically the face of the case. He can't stay away from it. He monetizes every aspect of it. It's just fucking pop-up city. You got to pay to have the pop-ups removed. And then he makes free Karen Reed t-shirts. All proceeds go to Turtle Boy. I'm sure he does other things with the money too, allegedly. Well, he was arrested for witness intimidation because he is so balls deep in this case. He's harassing investigators, the family of investigators, witnesses, the whole deal. It is not a good look for him at all. But since his arrest, it's been great business for Turtle Boy. In one day, he's raised almost $40,000 for his defense. And for the people that don't know the situation well and people who were kind of on the fence about this Turtle Boy, they just turned him into a martyr. So the best thing that could have happened for Turtle Boy happened for Turtle Boy. Next, we are going to Indiana. We've got some new news in the Richard Allen case out of Delphi involving the deaths of Abigail and Liberty Williams. Now, apparently, defense has this whole bit of hand-wavium going on, ladies and gentlemen, where it wasn't Richard Allen, according to the defense. It was a cult of Odinists, which is outrageous. And the defense has put together themselves a whole hill trash rogues gallery of assorted figures that they think are responsible for it. They claim ruins were painted on the tree and that the sticks were laid in a configured manner. But if you take a handful of pencils and drop them on the ground, they're going to form angles and things. So it's kind of like reading the bones in the beginning of Willow, you know? And that's basically what they're claiming is going on here. But the big new news is that the guards are confirmed that we're watching over Richard Allen. They're claiming that he confessed to these crimes because of the fact that the guards who were watching him had Odin patches on their prison uniforms, which prosecution confirmed they did have these Odin patches on their outfits. Now, does that mean that even more of their story is true, or is this a case of you tell the observable truth up until it can no longer be observed, and then you start branching off into your theory? So people who just look at it from a sidelong glance are like, oh, the defense said that they were Odinists and they had Odin patches on. Come out they did. Maybe the whole thing is true. In my opinion, this is just the defense during that part of the card trick where they say, here, you shuffle the deck. One of those things where you let the audience hold the card and they kind of trust you more. So that's what's going on there. And speaking of hand-wavium, we are going back to Idaho for everybody's favorite burger. That's right, Bryan Kohberger. This guy, Howard Blum, who's a journalist and an author, I should preface this by just saying Howard Blum is an exceptional writer. His skill at the craft of writing, within 2 paragraphs, you can tell he excels as a writer. Guy's a good writer. However, he's in a bit of hot water because he published a new article on his Airmail website, link in the description, where he tells the story from the perspective of Steve Gonsalves, who is the father of Kaylee Gonsalves, one of the victims in the Idaho 4 case. He never talked to Howard Blum, and so he's pissed. He's like, this fucking guy is making it look like I talked to him when I didn't, and the whole thing is fabricated. But is the whole thing fabricated? Because he's suggesting that Steve hired a private investigator and through a conduit had discussions with members of the grand jury and found out all kinds of new information that prosecution presented during his indictment at the grand jury, which is a big no-no. You should not be seeking out the fucking grand jurors and talking to them. But regardless, he did. And the new things that we heard are that the roommates were texting during the murders and after them. How far into the morning they were texting about it is yet to be discovered, but it took... The 911 call didn't come for almost 12 hours. It was closer to 8, but it was a long-ass time. And if these girls knew something terrible happened like that and didn't call the cops, it's just, Jesus Christ. And he also stated, alleged, that the jury was shown a receipt from Walmart for a Dickies full-body jumpsuit. And the theory is, that's why there was no DNA in his car, which has been my theory the whole time, is that he had the jumpsuit on, did the deed, the sheath was in his right pocket, and he pulled the knife out, and when he reached over the first victim to get to the second, the knife had fallen out. He didn't realize it. The sheath fell out of his pocket. He went downstairs, collected his other 2 victims, and then when he went to leave, pulled the trash bags out of his left pocket, realized, oh shit, my sheath is gone. It would be stupid to go back through the house to try to find it, so he figured, well, maybe I just cleaned it well enough, cut his losses, shoved the shit in a bag, threw it in the trunk, and left. And that's where we are. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on my first episode. Things are a little bit rough, they're a little bit bumpy, but we're going to try to make it better with every episode. I'm going to be making changes here and there. Any comments you have, any suggestions, I would love to hear them. Please leave them in the comments below. Ladies and gentlemen, see you next Sunday. This has been your Cryme.